Basically all of South and Southwest Longmont. It's roughly 33,000 people. There are 3 wards in Longmont. Ward 2 encompasses pretty much the economic engine of the city. It's all of Ken Pratt, it's most of Hover, and a part of Main Street, kind of the east side.
The clearest dividing line there is really like 3rd Avenue and South, with a few exceptions.
Okay.
With a few exceptions. So if you're south of 3rd Avenue, again with a few exceptions, and then east, everything west of County Line.
So I heard you say, while we were on break, South by Southwest Longmont. That's very cute. If you're within the sound of my voice, you are watching or listening to the Sterling Spin podcast. And today we have a special edition, a round table, ovalish table discussion, and we are at the LPM TV studio, which is why our set looks a little bit different. And I want to thank my team and other members of LPM for helping set this up and make it happen. Thank you. So grateful. The purpose of today's round table is to actually give voters a chance to see both the person and the candidate for Longmont Ward 2 City Council. And when I say the person, I mean let's find out about the 2 people who are sitting at this table. With me today is Matthew Popkin. He is the incumbent, and the challenger, Teresa Simpkins. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
No pressure.
No pressure. That was very formal. I'm like, okay, let's loosen it up. That was too much. So speaking of loosening up, things are actually speeding up or heating up because we're about a month away from the election. What's the last month been like for you, Matthew?
It's both been really enjoyable in that, like, there's so many events, so many people that I'm meeting, so many people that I'm re-meeting, and also exhausting because I'm working a full-time job. I'm still doing the council job, and I'm trying to campaign as clearly and as effectively as possible.
Right. So you're working, and you're working.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
And are you able to keep up? I think you like to run, I understand. Are you able to keep that up?
I'm running in a different way right now. That'll pick back up. I think I have a formal 5K at the start of November, right before the election, so that'll be a nice little pressure release valve. But I have been able to keep up some of the music stuff that I do too. I did a jazz quartet for a wedding a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
very nice.
The wedding was great.
Thank you for saying yes and coming into the studio. And Teresa, what's it been like for you?
You know, I think that running for office reminds me kind of having your first baby. If you really knew how hard it was going to be, you might not do it. So it's probably a good thing that no candidate really knows what it's like until they're already in it. I've watched a lot of elected officials through the years, and I went back to some of them about a month into this and said, am I right that governing isn't even as hard as running? And every single one of them said running is much harder.
So that's good. You'll do this, get it over with, and then the easy part will start. But
I don't know, easy, but
I wouldn't say
maybe
easy.
not, because so you filled a seat that became vacant.
Correct.
And that was in January of 2025.
Yes.
And you were one of 22 candidates. You both were one of 22 candidates. And then it was reduced. Some people dropped out. Some people didn't qualify. It was 4. And out of the 4, Matthew, you were appointed.
Correct.
So you've been sitting as a city council member for the past almost 9 months. And
Yes.
you've had a taste. And I guess the good news, Teresa, is that he's willing to run again. So that means that something is happening. Do you feel like something is happening? Are you making moves? Are you seeing some changes?
Oh, it's been really fascinating. I mean, not only did I have to like jump in and hit anyone, whoever was appointed would have had to hit the ground running in that kind of role. We were filling kind of the last 9 months of a term, really, until the next election.
Yeah.
But there are also some really major issues happening right now in our community, from development and growth to some transportation issues and a whole range of things that I know we'll get into at some point.
We're going to, but before we dive into the policies, before we dive into priorities, I'd like to really get to know you. I think that that's important. So let's go beyond talking points.
Great.
Just for a minute. Let's just get a chance to hear. Teresa, tell me something that's been like a personal story or challenge or something in your life that gave birth to this part of you that has the strength and the momentum and the willpower and the foresight and the attention to run for this seat, for the city council seat. Can you identify a story or something that has made you who you are and the person who could fight for your community?
You know, I'm going to go back kind of early days in my career. While I was in law school in DC at Georgetown, I got a job at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I started their Legislative Affairs Division, and I was working with legislators and communities all over the country on issues of child sexual exploitation primarily. That was my first real glimpse into how much, as one person, you can impact things. You know, working with families of children who had been abducted or killed, and I was very young at the time, 25 or so, and I was introducing bills, getting sponsors on Capitol Hill and getting bills introduced and enacted. But the thing that kept me going through like all of my fears of like, what am I doing? I'm only 25 years old. I don't know what I'm doing, were those families and feeling like they were counting on me. And it was really important. And what I realized coming out of those experiences and those conversations was that, it could have been someone else in my position. It didn't have to be me, but someone had to be there for them, right? And I was willing and I was able and I accomplished a lot. And that was when I realized like, this is absolutely what I need to do is community service felt like the right thing. And it felt like even if I'm just one of many, it takes all those many to do it. And if you're suited to it, then stepping up is the right thing to do.
So parlay that into how that translates into why somebody should give you their vote. What happened there that you can turn into, I'll be your voice on the city council or whatever it is that you will be?
I think it's more what that led into immediately after that. So I kind of fell into that job. One of my friends saw a newspaper article and said, you know what, you would be really good at working for them. You should call them. So I cold called them. They didn't have a position. And I talked my way in to a position. And from there I realized like I was never great at a 5-year plan for myself, but I was very good at seeing opportunities as they came my way and deciding if I had something to contribute. Right? So from there, I went and worked at the National Conference of State Legislatures, and because I had experience with legislators, right? So I was like, I can do this. And so I got a lot of bills passed all over the country. And then I went and became a Boulder County attorney because that opportunity came up. And, I got to work with families that were adopting. I got to litigate adult protection. So again, it was more this idea of like, examining an opportunity and saying, do I have something unique to bring to this? And if so, then I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And stepping back if I didn't.
How about 3 minutes from you, Matthew? the story, the experience, the challenge, what shaped you, what made you, what do you think gave birth to or helped rise within you, what you believe it takes to be a city council member?
Yeah, thanks, Liz, and thanks for hosting this as well, and thanks, Teresa, for joining. This was not part of the master plan.
Get it.
My wife and I moved here in 2021, and in the beginning of 2021, and just wanted to build a new life for ourselves together, and just kind of set a new course. And we wanted to change of pace. I had grown up in the DC area as well, so Teresa and I have a lot in common there. And even when I was growing up, when I was in college, I was involved in my campus community there at the University of Maryland, and was involved in transportation and sustainability issues because that was something I was passionate about, and that impacted everyone on the campus, whether you were a student, faculty, whatever. And what you choose to do with your time is, I think, really what signals your values. And there are so many good ways that people choose to use their time, and for me, the way that I could best give back, or just felt most rewarded, was to just be part of the community that I was in, whether it was at present or no, it was always in the moment. Honestly,
Always in the moment. You both had that.
I mean, honestly,
Didn't
going back,
put this on the
my
five-year
first job was as a soccer referee, and I did that for a while from through middle school, high school, even through college, and when I was even working full time. Really loved it. I was a soccer player for a while, and I just thought, like, hey, I think I could do this too. I think that would be a fun different thing. And as I got more enmeshed in the soccer referee community, I realized, hey, there are some things that we could probably improve and help more people with. And so I ended up becoming the youth board representative and the president of the Soccer Referee Association in the DC area. And then I was involved in college, came out of that. And when I moved here, I was like, oh, finally, I can just kind of relax. And I joined a jazz band when I moved here within like 3 weeks, because I was just looking for something to start to kind of build community around. And from there, started to learn more about how our city worked. I work with cities in my day job and have for most of my professional career, and so I'm just out of curiosity. It wasn't out of a sense of like moral like ambition or anything. This is something I'm curious to know.
It wasn't one event that was a precipitating factor. It was more your interests that called you to examine them further, and it's like one thing led to another and built on top of each other.
I think that's exactly right, because the first thing I got involved with was I applied to join the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was like, hey, I work with cities, I understand development challenges and some of the multimodal transportation issues here, and if I can be helpful here, great. So I applied, and if they didn't want me, they wouldn't have picked me. So they asked me to serve on the board there, and so I did that and was fully planning on finishing that 5-year term, and then the vacancy came up, and I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring, but that wasn't the master plan.
I like it. I like when things happen sort of
organically,
serendipitously, organically.
Yes, it was super
it's
organic.
like, oh, look at that, look at that. I think that's how the Sterling Spin podcast ended up this way, and so I honor that.
Yeah.
There's something very organic, like you said, Teresa, which is really nice. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciated hearing and understanding and letting the listeners and the viewers get a sense of who you are inside. But the fact that both of you came from the same city in Maryland, I'm like, wow, that's uncanny. Who would have thunk?
That is great. A very small world.
Yeah, they used to say 6 degrees of separation. I think now it's like 2 or 3.
Agreed.
We're really getting closer
When
and
did we
closer
even figure
connected.
that out?
We figured out pretty early on. I don't know who told me.
So one of our bios had something about it. And
Rival high schools, though. Not the same high
how
school.
dare she?
Yeah.
Oh, so there was a rival right from the beginning. Well, there's not rivaling here.
No.
I really like what I see as a very harmonious energy between the two of you. All right, let's look at Ward 2. Matthew, I'm going to start with you. You'll have 3 minutes. What are your 2 top priorities, and why do they matter most right now?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I might have to bleed into 3, but I'll use the time I have. The issue that I think defines Longmont and particularly Ward 2 is our growth pattern right now, and managing how and where we grow in this community. And I actually think we mostly agree on that. That is a key piece. That was actually something that kind of prompted me to want to jump into the
I think it's in the water. Like you drink the water, you go,
we're
growing so fast.
I mean, if you look around the community, the areas where there's the most kind of non-developed land or underdeveloped land is in Ward 2. So inherently, that's where there's going to be more pressure, whether it's in an existing neighborhood like Bond Farm or Clover Creek. Like, you're going to see that kind of pressure kind of bubble up there. Or is it underdeveloped or previously developed land like the Sugar Mill or lower downtown or the River District, right, where there's more opportunity that's not in anyone's backyard. And I think what I've seen now since joining City Council is that if you aren't proactive with where you want to develop, it's going to happen to the city, and proposals are just going to keep coming.
With the developers' developments, you know, train car box type houses that are coming up near the train tracks. I mean, I've been seeing a lot and sensing a lot of growth, and I'm brand new, so that's why this development issue is very, very important.
Right. I mean, and that's where if you don't control your growth, it is going to happen. And so the key is what are the areas where we want to prioritize our growth? Because some growth is inevitable. And we have a lot of housing pressures these days, and it was not easy for my wife and I to get into to buy our house, and it's only getting harder. And we were relatively fortunate to even have like some savings to be able to try to compete at rock bottom interest rates, even though the market was really high in 2021. And so, but not everyone is that fortunate, and the market is constantly evolving and costs are going up. And so that if you don't continue to expand your housing stock, there's going to be that, you know, if you don't have more supply, but the demand is increasing, you're going to have, this is economics 101, you're going to have a price, cost of living crisis that we'd have. So I think that's the first part, but also our growth and development is directly related to our transportation and kind of how we're getting around and the traffic that people are experiencing. And so when I think about what's important, not only is it how do we manage the vehicular traffic, but also how do we manage the rise of e-bikes in our community, which I'm an avid e-biker, I love my e-bike, but there's a problem when we don't have rules of the road for e-bikes and we don't have enough protected bike lanes. So you're starting to run into controversies and conflict on the Greenway, and you're starting to see cities in the region start to put in, you know, speed limits for bikes or like some restrictions there. So thinking about all of that, and then while we're still talking about transportation, I think you can't talk about Ward 2 without talking about Vance Brand Airport, because we have underinvested in the airport, and we're starting to see the consequences of that by, again, not being proactive there and not taking ownership of our infrastructure and modernizing it to where it needs to be.
So the transportation and also the rapid development with the attention to housing. And I just have a question of curiosity, and it really is for both of you. You have your issues. How much power do you really have toward these issues? So hold that in abeyance for a second.
Sure.
I'm going to go to Teresa, get her too. And then that's the question that we really want to ask. Like, you know what's important to you, but what capacity do you have to implement changes in those areas? So, Teresa.
So I'm going to stick to the points where we have a little bit of disparity. Matthew and I agree on the transportation issues, so I'm going to set that aside, even though I do think it's one of the top three. With growth, I agree that we should be building in places that are near major transit lines and in places that are not going to affect existing neighborhoods, like the Sugar Mill. That plan has been on the books for years and years and years. But in Ward 2 specifically, we have roughly 6,000 apartments. You know, Ward 2, when you listen to the people, they're very tired of all of the apartments. What they want to see are affordable homes for sale to families and couples or people who want a chance to get into the market and to put down roots here in Longmont. Ward 2 is a very kind of family-oriented ward. You know, it's about people living here long term.
What are you saying? You're saying that you want to just get people be able to get into Longmont, that they have the means to do it, so it doesn't have to be individual homes, it could be apartments or apartment buildings. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think it's more that we want to see homes, properties that are for sale, condos, cottages, senior cottages, townhomes, things that are in terms of density that fit the character of the neighborhoods where they're being proposed. Not 18 units per acre, not 16 units per acre, but something that fits more of the surrounding area. And one of the cornerstones of my campaign has been that we do not build on preserved land. Open space, conservation easements. There's a big proposal, in Ward 2, right outside of Ward 2, about a conservation easement, and I am entirely against that.
Keeping the open space open.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
No infringement, no encroaching on that.
Nope.
Absolutely no.
Absolutely no. And then for my second piece, I'm going to jump off of what Matthew wasn't able to finish, which is Vance Brand Airport. And we do have a lot of agreement there, but I really think my vision for Vance Brand is that right now it is kind of a shabby local airport, but it has a very passionate pilots group and business owners out at the airport who are very willing to work with the city to kind of make the airport kind of a jewel of the city, right? Where it becomes a destination for local people to go out to the airport, and spend a day or watch the planes or whatever. And I really like the idea of doing that. Noise is a problem, and we need to work on that, but I think we can find common ground with the pilots, the businesses, and the community. When I've been talking to people and starting to kind of carve out where is that common ground, there's a lot of it. And that's where I want to work, is in those.
It's very timely for Sundance that's coming in 2027,
Exactly.
so we could see a lot of private planes.
Yes, a lot.
I think that that's important. And I've been out to the airport and I was like, what am I doing here? Nothing happened. There were no planes coming in. I waited around for like a half hour. I was like, okay, bye. So let's talk about, thank you.
Question coming, just a clarification. Ward 2, for people that don't know, what is Ward 2?
I like to describe it as South by Southwest Longmont.
South, I say south and.
It's South by Southwest.
And the
like,
west part of Longmont, and it's a district that's carved out.
Kind of gets into Old Town a little bit, but other
Yeah,
than
there's
So people
And it goes
know.
all
there
the
are
way
other
east,
wards.
too.
I think
Yeah, so
the
south.
people do, but
South
we can,
and
Southwest.
southwest,
Yeah.
yeah. South by southwest.
so should I clarify? Have that?
Please, just, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's clarify the Ward 2 and the airport. Why is it called Ward 2? Where is it? Do you know how many people are in Ward 2? What's the area location of Longmont that it houses? How many people are living in it now? I think anything related to Ward 2, because we had someone in the audience who would like clarification. So.
Ward 2, excuse me, is basically all of South and Southwest Longmont. It's roughly 33,000 people. There are 3 wards in Longmont. Ward 2 encompasses pretty much the economic engine of the city. It's all of Ken Pratt. It's most of Hover, and a part of Main Street, kind of the east side.
The
up to
clearest
9th.
dividing line there is really like 3rd Avenue and South with a few exceptions.
Okay.
With a
Yeah,
few
a
exceptions.
few
So
exceptions.
if you're south of 3rd Avenue, again with a few exceptions, and then east, everything west of County Line.
So
Road.
I heard you say while we were on break, South by Southwest
That's-
Longmont. That's very cute.
Yeah, and I would say the average age of Longmont is approximately 40 years old, and I think Ward 2 is a little bit younger than that.
Okay. So thank you, yes. And you have areas that are not developed. They're actually disintegrating. They're falling apart.
Yeah.
I made a point of going out and looking at a couple of the areas that Clover Basin and where the sugar mill, and I was looking going, oh, it really needs help. So do you have any power once you sit on the city council? Let's say you've got that seat. Do you have any power to implement change, to get your priorities addressed? Matthew?
Yeah, and just before we get to that, I just want to briefly speak to 2 things that Teresa was noting before. One, the Kanemoto Estates project, we both actually oppose. That there's far less gray area there than I think you were suggesting, and it's also not open space as the city defines it.
It's
a conservation easement, and those are legally different things for how we define our land. We don't need to get into that on the podcast, but I think that's worth clearing up for people. The second thing is when you I think we both also share a goal to try to make, and I've said this publicly and I've written testimony to the state, for more for sale housing. The challenge is when you build fewer for sale units, the price goes up.
Right.
And so I guess I would challenge Teresa to think if we're building more single family homes everywhere to try to address that, how do we actually make it affordable
So
for people
hold
who are
that
trying to step
question
in?
because
Great.
that'll be coming up.
Excellent.
That will be the next question.
Excellent. Good.
So
Then let me jump to
Yeah.
your question there. So the short answer is yes, we do have the ability to actually make a difference on city council for properties like the Sugar Mill, Lower Downtown, and other previously developed areas. And I'll give you that has been my whole priority since my top priority since coming to city council. I chair our Urban Renewal Authority. City council members also serve concurrently on our Urban Renewal Authority, which if you haven't heard of it, I wouldn't blame you. It's a pretty niche thing, but it oversees redevelopment areas specifically. And so when we think about where are the areas we can actually handle growth, it is areas like the Sugar Mill, it is areas like Lower Downtown, where that First and Main transit station is going to be, and some concurrent flood damage we're now kind of buying up the property to do. So city council and the city can acquire property. City council and the city can oversee and approve various infrastructure plans. We can reinvest in that infrastructure, and through the Urban Renewal Authority, we have other powers as well of capturing strategic financing, like what helped reinvigorate the Village of the Peaks, called tax increment financing that we can leverage, that we are leveraging. We just got an update yesterday, working with staff, and we're actively negotiating with property owners.
So you actually know that the priorities that each of you have, and you feel
Yeah.
the same way, Teresa, that
I have a slightly different answer.
let's hear.
How effective, so I've worked with so many different city councils in my time in government, and how effective you can be on council is in large part determined by how well you work with other people.
Good point.
And so part of, you're only as effective on council as how much people want to work with you and to collaborate with you, and whether they feel like you share credit and and kind of are willing to give and take on things and find commonalities instead of kind of sticking to your point, right? So
You have to be flexible, you have to be a team
absolutely
player, you have
have
to
to.
know how to schmooze. I call it the schmooze.
well, I think it's a lot about collaboration, right? And whether that's kind of part of your nature or not. And so I think the answer is yes, you can be extremely effective. One person on council can be very effective, but it depends on that person.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, now I understand your enthusiasm because you're both great people. I mean, just the way you have addressed each other and how you came in, and there's a warm and there's a welcoming. So I think that's going to go a long way. So let's turn around, because part of leadership is curiosity and listening, very important. I want to give each of you a chance to ask your opponent a question. You've probably been wanting to do that for a while. So you get to think, okay, I have one question. Teresa, we're going to start with you and give you 3 minutes we're going to give Matthew 3 minutes. You're going to ask Matthew a question that you would like him to answer, and then you'll have a minute to respond after. How does that sound?
Sure, that sounds great.
ChatGPT came up with that one.
Let's hear it for AI.
Okay, I need something that's unusual, something that's different,
this is fun.
something that'll
Liz,
work,
I love
something
that.
This is
that'll be fun. So,
Do you have the boxing gloves under the table? Or?
okay, a question. Because here's if not now, when, right? That's what it says. So you can ask him.
Okay. All right, so
It's all tight.
Liz just wanted a break.
So, Matthew, under what conditions would you build on the Kanemoto conservation easement?
Oh. Well, I'll tell you, thank you. Great question. Under what conditions would I build on that? Virtually none. Let's
tell us what you're talking about
sure.
first. So.
Sure. So the Kanemoto conservation easement is a parcel of land, about 29 acres or so, in southwest Longmont, right outside the city limits, that was granted from the Kanemotos to Boulder County in 1982 for $10, with the agreement that it would be preserved in perpetuity as a conservation easement. Boulder County has now entered into an agreement to sell it to a developer for $2.3 million, and that developer wants to put high-density housing on that property. And if the city chooses to annex the property, the conservation easement is terminated and the building
will happen.
will-
Okay, so
of
now
some
we're
sort.
all at the table and we understand what we're talking about.
Yes.
So the question to Matthew is, what are you in favor of? How do you stand on this easement?
Sure.
And then annexation, and then ultimately this affordable housing? And it is a conservation area, so it's not an open space.
Yeah, it's a conservation easement. Yeah, great question, Teresa, and it's an important one for Ward 2. I don't support the current proposal. I don't support development there, and the reason is it's currently zoned rural. Like, it's not zoned for the purposes that's being proposed. Now, City Council does have the authority to change zoning upon annexation, but that's not something I support because it was zoned rural under Envision Longmont, which was the whole comprehensive plan that was created back in 2016-ish with 16,000+ people contributing to that. And if that's not listening to what people have said about where development should be happening in our community, I don't know what is. And so if that was coming before the City Council today, I wouldn't vote to annex that right now. Now, that said, annexation in itself is not a bad thing. There can be, and unfortunately, the county has now tied the conservation easement termination to the annexation process, but there are valid reasons for the city to annex something that aren't development related. And so that's why I don't unilaterally oppose annexation, but I don't support development there. The only situation where I would entertain that differently is if we went through another comprehensive plan process and the community at large said, you know what, this is where we're
I
comfortable.
mean, like a new Envision Longmont.
Absolutely, a
that
re-envision
whole thing.
Longmont, if you will.
Re-envision, and you'd have
If
to have
that way- if that
16,000
happened,
plus people.
then how could I not at least consider that based on what all of the feedback that went through that process? Now, that's a multi-year process in of itself, so we have a
Right.
lot of opportunity to do education. I would make sure to pull in the residents who are nearby and who are particularly concerned about that to make sure that we're weighing that. And I have a feeling that probably wouldn't get rezoned in that process anyway. And I don't frankly want that because, as we were talking about before, I actually want to pull more and more of our growth and focus more and more of our growth right here in our downtown and our sugar mill. That's the ball game in Longmont. Cities should be jealous of Longmont's position right now because most cities are like built out in their core areas, and we have some real opportunities to do something different and define the next generation, if not generations, of Longmont's infrastructure, housing, retail, commercial experience, and just placemaking in a way that most cities would only dream of. We don't have to tear a lot of things down at this point. We can adapt what's there. We can rebuild what isn't there or the sites that have been previously disturbed. That's what gets me excited. I don't want to spend our time, I don't want to spend our staff's time, I don't want to spend council's time or residents' time on a proposal like that because it stretches the boundaries of our city. So in both principle and in practice, I'm not in favor of that, and any implication otherwise is just inaccurate.
Teresa,
So,
we have a minute.
yes. So interestingly, I have emails that show Matthew getting kind of backed from a position of, well, maybe we can put utilities there. Maybe we could, build but less dense. Maybe we could put affordable housing there. So
I've never said that. Sorry, that's not true.
I'll send
You
them
can
to
Quora my emails.
No, I'll send them to you.
I've talked about the utilities, absolutely. Putting affordable housing there, I don't think I have said in any way, shape, or form because I don't agree with that.
So,
So maybe there's been some discussion that's alerted you, which is the reason why you're asking this question.
and to my point, I go back to the fact that the county was granted that money for $10. The Kanemoto family, they're good business people. Anyone who's lived in Longmont for any amount of time knows that. They would not have granted that land for $10 if they had intended it to be developed ever, under any circumstances.
So we're very clear that there would be a process, so it can be annexed, but what you're saying is not developed.
Never.
And maybe
That's also what I was
supporting I mean, is it fair to say supporting the town with utilities in that area?
No.
Still not.
No.
If you need to run some wires or some pipes or connect the existing two sites, like there's
There
two.
are ways around, actually.
Yeah, if you want to
could
connect
go
to
around.
get them off a septic system and connect to our sewer system, like that doesn't impact anything on the surface of the land. It doesn't impact the quality of the land. In fact, it enhances the quality of the land.
And we can't answer that question right now. It's a question that remains a question, and for whomever is part of the city council and the interpretation. that's how it will end up being voted and addressed.
Right. I mean, look, the emails that Teresa was referring to, I know exactly what she's referring to. You can open records, request them. They are public through my city email. I don't talk about the affordable housing. That's just not true.
Okay, well, we hear you very clearly.
Yeah.
So now you get to go. So, fill him up, please. Where's
get some
that
more water?
vino? Oh, what do you mean water?
Look, I actually, one of the things I appreciate about Teresa is that she is jumping into the race, and she applied just like I did, and others applied as well, and that she clearly is passionate about the community, and I appreciate that she's bringing that to the table. I think something that surprised me is that since I was appointed, I have yet to hear from you via email, in public forums, at public meetings, on any topic. And so I'm curious as to like where your passion was hibernating for until you launched your campaign. But ultimately, like if you care so much as I think you do, like why didn't you speak up sooner? And why have I yet to hear your opinion or perspective on any of the issues that we've been talking about and that you've talked about?
You mean before I entered the race?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you haven't come to a city council meeting to speak on any of the issues that we've seen
I
there
haven't.
either.
Because, like I said, I've been in government a really long time, and I watched a lot of campaigns. And if you are even considering running, you don't tip your entire campaign platform to your potential opponent for free. And I was approached shortly after the appointment process by people who were very unhappy with the appointment process. And
You're referring to the vacant seat that came up earlier in the year.
Yep, but that's a whole other topic. But so I was mulling it over very early on. So there wasn't any reason for me to jump into it. And, I was sitting back, I was watching and observing, and I have learned in 25 years that that was the most effective way to understand the lay of the land, is listening and not talking.
So, Matthew, you'll get a minute to respond here. I just want to restate what I heard you say, and that is, you didn't use the word per se, but that there was an active strategy that you were employing because you were eyeing the possibilities.
I was considering the possibilities,
Right.
and I was talking to a lot of people other than Matthew. His positions were clear from watching city council. We're so lucky. We have LPM, right?
Yes, I know.
We can watch it. I could sit on my
right.
sofa and watch it every single Tuesday. And so, I can understand where he's coming from, but I was busy talking to people in the ward. That was my focus.
So to be out in the community.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Matthew, how do you feel about the question, how it's been answered, and you have a minute.
I'm a little unsatisfied, if I'm being honest. I mean, look, I understand the strategy of that, but when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2 years, didn't hear from you on any of the proposals there.
Nope.
Didn't get an email as part of our public packet there.
Nope.
There were hundreds, if not thousands, of residents that have reached out at different points during that period too. And so, decisions are made by those who show up. And the people who show up help shape the conversation. We had many major issues that were challenging this year that were complicated issues, from the distal toe land swap to the sex offender residence house up in Ward 1 at Winding Drive, to various environmental issues and economic issues and development issues. And I think I'm surprised to hear that. I understand the strategy.
I contacted other people. I just didn't contact Matthew.
And I talked to virtually every single other person who applied for the Ward 2 position, and many, many other residents. I appreciate your passion, but I'm surprised that we haven't heard your advocacy.
So I have to respond to the Planning Commission point for 2 years ago.
Sure.
Okay.
I have raised 7 children. 2 that I gave birth to, 3 that I acquired by marriage, and 2 that were foster. My foster son just moved out of the house last summer. He can be watching this and he knows I love you, Eric.
Aww.
But he was hard, and he knows that. We struggled. It was a lot to take somebody else's child who had a lot of struggles. So no, I wasn't at the planning commission meetings because I was doing other things that I felt were equally, if not more important.
And I don't mind that at all. What I was saying, I got emails from hundreds of other residents as well.
Yeah, I didn't.
And it's just a
I
question of what
talked to
people are
other
paying
people.
attention.
I talked to other city council.
I am grateful that we got a chance to put this on the table.
Yeah.
I think it's good because the voters get to hear and listen and understand, and it makes me feel very grateful that we could bring this out, bring
it's a
it
great
to
question.
the surface and understand it. So we're going to take a break. We're here together with you. Thank you for tuning in to the Sterling Spin podcast. We're having our special round oval table. I'm not going to say round table anymore. Oval table. And we're in the process of having a little bit of a debate and a lot of discussion and discovery, which I really like. So thank you for being with us. I want to thank our sponsors. I'm thrilled to welcome a new sponsor to the Sterling Spin, Human Design Readings, Consulting, and Education with Peter Berv. Human design is a powerful tool. It blends ancient wisdom, modern science to give you a blueprint for how you're wired to live, wired to love, and how to thrive. Whether you're seeking clarity in your work, relationships, or personal growth, Peter offers readings locally, nationally, and internationally, and courses that help you unlock your unique design. Discover your blueprint, live your design. Learn more at peterberv.com. Yes, because you're the ones who bring this program to others. And I also want to say, would you like to be in the seat next to me? I love stories. I love to learn from you. I'd love you to contact me at sterlingspin@gmail.com. And you could see the subscribe button. If that button is black and lit up, hit it, and then the notification bell. Every Sunday, we drop a new show. And that's what the bell sounds like. You get that little notification. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the Sterling Spin podcast. And I'm Liz Sterling, and we have a couple of more questions. This one has to do with your community.
Okay.
Your responsibilities as a council member
Okay.
to make sure that your residents feel heard, that especially the people who don't engage, who aren't an integral part of what's going on politically. So how can you ensure that voices are included, that you are able to bring people in and to get them, Matthew, for 3 minutes to know that there's an opportunity for them to be heard too and to learn?
No, thanks, Liz. That's a great question. Something I've honestly thought about almost every single week for the last 8 months. Since I was appointed, I've been trying to think. I know that I'm not in every single community. I know that I don't have an ear in every single pocket of Longmont or in pocket of Ward 2, right? And I think I have done my best to pay attention and read every single email that's submitted to me or submitted through the development packets that we get to understand kind of where the pulse is on certain development proposals from the people who are choosing to reach out and share their opinion and feel strongly about that. And I do, and most of them have seen the fruits of that labor. What I will say is it's harder to get the people who you can't hear from as much for a whole range of reasons. And so stepping out and going to community events of different scales and different places, that's been opportunity number one. I'm a part of the running community in Longmont, and so I talk to people there as well about kind of what are their priorities, what are they feeling, trying to get into other spaces where you have just different generations. A really good example of that is I'm the youngest member of City Council. I'm the only one below the average age of Longmont, but I'm currently City Council's liaison to the Senior Citizens Advisory Board.
Interesting.
And I put my hand up for that because that's a perspective I can't bring to the table, but I do make decisions that impact. And so I want the seniors of Longmont to know that I am thinking about you too. And even though I can't embody your perspective directly from my lived experience, I am out there trying to listen not only to those who show up to places, but putting myself at the food rescue events that we're having for people who are struggling to put food on the table, that we're talking with the various friends of the Senior Center and the Senior Center to understand all of the amazing programming that's happening for our seniors in Longmont and in the region.
Right.
We do an incredible job of programming there, and people don't have a sense of just how much the city is doing there. And so understanding what communities you're a part of and what communities you're not a part of, I think is really important for any elected representative or appointed official in general, because the decisions you make impact everyone.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, Teresa, we'll give you same time so that you can reach the people. You know, and there are some who will send you emails and some who will call. And then how do you also reach the people who are not aware?
Right. So Matthew's point to being out in the community is an important one, right? Because you do have to try to reach people where they are rather than always expecting them to come to you. I think in Ward 2, that looks a little differently than maybe in some other areas. I think that things like PTA meetings are a good place to reach a lot of active parents. You know, community yard sales, I've done all of those, walking around and talking to people. The single biggest complaint, I think, despite his very sincere and best efforts, that brought me into this was from Ward 2 residents who felt that Matthew did not listen to them. He replied to their emails, but they didn't feel that they were heard. And a good example is the Quail development, which is on Clover Basin, between Clover Basin and Quail Road in southwest Longmont. And there's a proposal there for apartments, some small single-family homes, and some Habitat for Humanity. But the overall density of the project is still, for the apartments, 18 units per acre, which is much, much higher than the single-family homes that surround it on all three sides, right? Airport being the fourth side. So though all of those neighborhoods around there approached me and said, you know, the best we've been able to get Matthew to do is to come down to 16 units per acre. And we have been adamant that, you know, it's not about not wanting affordable housing there. I've had a vast majority of them say, put all Habitat for Humanity houses on there and we'd be happy. But make it fit better with our outstanding community when we already have 6,000 apartments.
So is this how you're going to reach people?
So my point is that when people do contact you and they're explicit in their concerns, then you have to hear them and you have to get out and put out feelers. Is this a commonly felt opinion or is this one person, right? And what I discovered in going around to those neighborhoods around that development is that it is a commonly held opinion. And, you know, so that when we talk about
commonly held opinion that you were on the ground,
Yes.
door to door, speaking to the people. So that's what you're saying is
Yeah.
part of your way to reach people
Yes.
is to go to their doors and query them, take a lead, and then pick that up and run, and then make your determination based on what the people are saying.
Exactly. So, you know, I really believe in representative government. And I think that when you have folks in your community who feel very strongly, absent some, you know, like safety reason, you know, you need to be representative of those feelings and desires and not impose your own
So that's what you will do.
ideology.
You
Yes.
will be a representative of the people.
Yes.
Taking their information, moving your own will aside.
Right.
Or maybe your, you know, myopicism, and you're going to broaden your perspective to
Right.
let that information in. So,
Yes.
Matthew.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that.
Yeah,
One,
yeah.
because I had 50 seconds left, and two, because
Good.
Teresa brought up a really interesting project in Ward 2, and I think it's worth engaging on. You know, I think what's the Quail Road project gave me both a lot of heartburn at the time, and also just a really clear signal as to the discrepancies within the community. We talked about Envision Longmont before, and kind of the value add that brings and the clarity that offers to both residents and developers. And that zone, with the project that proposed, is within that. That 16,000 people contributed to shaping, not just the people who happen to live next to it. Now, I also respect the people who happen to live next door to the project. And they saw that firsthand with the first 2 meetings. Whoever was appointed to the Ward 2 position was going to be facing that project that I saw on the Planning Commission and then saw again here. So I had actually already read all of their emails for the Planning Commission and then heard them loud and clear. And I opposed the project when it first came because it was just apartments. It wasn't serving the balanced mix of housing that we need. If you don't mind, I'd like to briefly.
How are you here? Because I'm okay. I've got an extra minute or so. Are you okay to open this up a little further? Are you?
If I can respond.
Yes, you can.
I'm fine with that.
Sure.
And so I opposed it then, sending a clear signal to the developer that that was not what we wanted. And people appreciated that. And I'd say the biggest mistake that I have made over the last 8 months, and I've told these residents directly, that when this came back up for referral to annexation, not a vote on approval, which the first vote was, the first decision was whether we wanted to approve it or not for an annexation. I said no. The second time it came up was for re-referral back into our annexation process. It was not saying yes to the project. That was the start of the process again. And I understand that that process can be confusing and that people maybe have felt that the developer wasn't the right fit for that. I understand that. But what the developer did show is a clear commitment to a better balanced housing mix with a local Habitat for Humanity partner. And so I didn't feel like it was responsible for all of the people that have reached out to me in other ways saying, how can I afford to get into buying a home in Longmont, to just rule it out altogether. And so I can still say, even if it came back tomorrow, I could still say no to the project if it doesn't get good enough. But it's not there. But you don't even have that chance if you don't start that process.
What I'm hearing is that voices have been heard, there has been compromise, there has been communication.
Absolutely.
And just from sitting over here in this seat, sometimes it's scary when you start talking about annexing, and annexing could become a developer, which could
Absolutely.
do what they want. So it leaves the person, of the voter, especially and the residents, with a question mark. And
It totally
that's
does.
what today is all about.
And that's why I sat down with many of them for 3 hours after to explain that whole situation and understand their concerns, because the decision was not set in stone.
Right.
And I also explained that I didn't understand the process.
And you're also asking the
Yeah.
people to trust the city
Yes.
council, and that is like a big leap.
It is,
So
especially in this day and age.
that's right. So Teresa, I'm going to give you the minute to wrap this up and to complete it.
So in the last neighborhood meeting, the developer, and I feel for him, their development company is owned by venture capitalists. I get it. So is the company I work for, and they have very tight direction around what kind of margins they want to see on anything that they put money into. And the developer made it clear that he could not get any better than the one that is on the table right now.
At the 16 or 18?
At the 18. With a few Habitat for Humanity homes, he wouldn't say how many, and with a few single-family homes for sale, not necessarily affordable, just single-family homes.
Sorry, that's just, you're referring to the neighborhood meeting that happened in July?
Yeah.
No, he was specific about the 47 different Habitat for Humanity homes and a similar amount of units for sale. He did not say that he couldn't get better. That was just where that was laid out at the process.
So would you both be willing to review that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you know for sure?
But even so, apartment blocks that are 18 units per acre right there is not in keeping with the neighborhood.
So I definitely get, and we can't spend more time on this today, but certainly you must have a way for people to get in contact with you and to follow up. How would they do that?
They can go to my website and contact me through the form there, or they can email me at stayconnected@Teresa4Longmont, the number 4, Longmont.com.
And the name of your website, because we'll make sure it's up on the screen.
It's Teresa4, the number 4, Longmont.com.
Okay, that's great. And Matthew?
People can reach out to me via my city email at matthew.popkin@longmontcolorado.gov, or if you prefer something less formal, the Popkin,
or easier,
popkinforlongmont@gmail.com.
Okay.
And then
you have a website as well?
popkinforlongmont.com.
Is it FOR or is it the number?
FOR, yes.
It's
Popkin FOR.
Okay, we have one FOR and one number 4.
Yep.
And we have the last question.
Sure.
So let's do this one, and I think you're going to be really glad because it's going to be very simple. All right, Teresa, we'll start with you.
Yeah?
in 5 words or less.
Ooh, okay.
What's the one message that you want voters to remember about you?
Oh, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Gosh, I'll be your voice on council.
Great. I'll be your voice on council.
Sorry, one word.
I gave you Matthew. You got
I'll just be quick time-wise. If it sounds like I'm passionate, it's because I am, and because it's the life and the community that we're building.
sound like, no, really, 5 or less. I'm passionate about my community.
Sure.
Okay, how's that? That's what I heard you say.
Yeah.
And could you say yours again?
I will be your voice on council.
Very nice. Thank you both so much.
you,
Matthew
Liz.
Popkin, Teresa Simpkins, this is Liz Sterling. Till the next time, you're within the sound of my voice. Be well, be blessed, keep spinning toward tomorrow today. Thank you both again.